Hello, I am back. Hello, welcome back. Okay, so I was going to show off the first book. Hello, welcome back. I was going to show off the first book that got me into witchcraft. Hello. So this is the first book that I read. It's called Green Witchcraft by Maura. And she has like 4 books now. But I got in, this is one of the first books I started reading. The other book by her that I read was The Origins of Witchcraft. But she's a really good author. She focuses more on herbal fairy magic. But she has like a whole grimoire set up and everything. But I was really interested in Green Witchcraft, and so she has like I said, she has like 4 volumes. But that was the first occult book that I really got into. I read Gerald Gardner's Book of Shadows. I read I read basic the Wicca basics, basically. Like I said, my teacher was from a Dianic Wicca tradition. So there's that factor there. And then, of course, I read the Book of the Law. That was my the first thing I read by Crowley. Big mistake right out of the door, as I told you guys earlier. But the interesting thing is that I did my whole year and a day with her, and then I was dedicated. I wasn't initiated because I wasn't part of a formal coven, per se. So I was dedicated to that Dianic traditional Wicca path that I had been working with. And I kind of got sucked into the materialism aspect of it, so I bought all the wands, the athames, the statuary. I bought it all. And I almost bankrupted myself buying all of this stuff. And now in hindsight, I realize that most of it, at the time, being a student and not really having any formal knowledge on how to utilize said implements, that was a big waste of money. Hello, welcome to the stream. So anyway, so I got dedicated to this Wiccan path, and I lost interest in it. Almost. Hello, welcome to the stream. I lost interest in Wicca within a few months after my dedication, because I had all this knowledge that she'd given me, but I didn't put it into practice. Like, I didn't develop a habitual practice, and I had over the course of my life, I had struggled with Christianity. I had gone back and forth between different denominations because part of me just couldn't give up the idea of couldn't give up the it was part of the Christian indoctrination and trauma that if you weren't Christian, you were going to go straight to hell, And so I had gone back and forth through different denominations. My grandmother introduced me to the Mormon Church, and so I would say I was about 15, 16 at the time. I'm kind of going backwards a little bit here. But I was like 15, 16 years old at the time. and my grandmother had introduced me into the Mormon Church. And so I studied their teachings and their doctrine and stuff like that. They're not polygamists, at least not the main LDS church. The Reformed LDS church, they're still polygamists. They kind of did the same thing that the Shiites and the Sunnis did, where they fought over who was the legitimate successor of their then prophet Joseph Smith. So the Reformed Church were all the people who followed the, I think, nephew of Joseph Smith, and then the main LDS are the ones that followed the elected, chosen successor, Brigham Young, to Utah. So that's where they diverge there. They also diverged when the church banned polygamy, simply for the fact that U.S. Congress wasn't going to have polygamists achieve statehood. That was the deal with Congress in Utah achieving statehood, is the Mormons had to give up the polygamy, even though they didn't. They just had one legitimate wife, and then they had a bunch of whole So the old guard still had the polygamy. They still did the polygamy. They just didn't call it that. But I didn't know about Korob, the star Korob, in the Mormon Church when I was being taught, and the magic underwear, which actually does exist. They use it for temple work. At least that's... and there's a lot of Masonic influences because Joseph Smith was a Freemason, and he incorporated a lot of the ritual aspects of Freemasonry into the temple work, like endowments. The endowment ritual is based off of Freemason practice. One of the key aspects to the Mormon temple is genealogy. There's ritual baptisms for the dead, where where people are baptized in the stead baptized in the stead of people who are dead in the afterlife, so they can get into heaven. I kind of liked that at the time when I was studying Mormonism. I thought that kind of made sense because, the idea is like, okay, so all these people who before didn't know anything about the Gospels, they're all going to hell. No, that's not what the Mormons said. Nope, that's the reason we're doing the genealogy work. We're going back, back in time and stuff like that, and we're baptizing all of these people and stuff like that with historical records, and that's how that works. I'm like, makes sense, right? You think it makes sense until you get into the other bits, like the Book of Mormon, where the Nephites are white, pale-skinned people, and the Lamanites, are the dark-skinned natives, and the Native American tribes are all descended from them. So basically, the Book of Mormon was white supremacist incorporated doctrine, not to mention the other doctrine that said that people who were African American, the slaves had the dark skin because before the we all came to Earth and shit. The ones with the dark skin, they were the ones who were neutral in the war on God and shit like that. So all these dark skinned people were all cursed. That's why they had the dark skin. And so basically Mormonism was just repackaged white supremacy, and I consider Joseph Smith to be kind of like the 18th century version of L. Ron Hubbard, in the sense that he created a bullshit religion and conned a whole bunch of people. Sorry, that's just how I feel. Scientologists out there, don't send your lawyers after me just yet. I don't give a shit about what you believe out, when this, gets posted up. But, anyways, so I left the Mormon church after I did some digging, and I found that in the book of Isaiah in the Bible, Lucifer is mentioned by name and stuff. Lucifer is Latin. It's not Hebrew. And the Hebrew is something El Ben Shahar or something like that. But that's the thing, is that Lord Zeno curses you. Nice. Yeah, well, Cthulhu's got a bigger dick. Anyways, enough Lovecraftian king community there for you. But anyways, so the problem with the Book of Isaiah is that if the Book of Mormon was legitimate, the translation that he did would have been through the Hebrew, right? That makes sense. But no, the verses in Isaiah, the verses of Isaiah that are actually in the Book of Mormon, there are Old Testament books in the Book of Mormon that are supposed to legitimize certain Mormon prophecies and stuff like that, and connect the lost tribe of Israel, argument. And so the idea is that, if the Book of Mormon was legitimate, those translations would be based on English translations directly from the Hebrew, right? No. So that's the immediate reason why I'm like, ooh, okay. I immediately realized this was bullshit. This was bunk. And so that's the reason why I left the Mormon church, was because I immediately, this just didn't sit well for me. Also, I like tea. I don't know about y'all, but I love tea. And there is no way that there is any way that they could keep me from my iced tea. Just throwing that out there. The Word of Wisdom, as it's called, forbids the consumption of tea and coffee. And also Coca-Cola, I think. Nobody ever got me gave me shit for Coca-Cola. So, anyways, and then later on, I did, after abandoning the pagan path, we're now back onto the main timeline. Now that we're back into the main timeline, I gave up the pagan stuff and did Buddhism for a little while, and from the Buddhism, I did Taoism, and I circled back again and became interested in Catholicism, and I found a lot of beauty in Catholic ritual and stuff like that, and so I tried doing the Catholic thing, but it didn't work out. Primarily because of the Detroit Archdiocese banned LGBT groups from holding Mass in their churches. That was the last straw for me. I know probably like the thousands of years of persecution of people and the mass murder and the genocide and the history of the Catholic Church in general would have been a big giant red flag. No, do not be part of this. Yeah, I dodged a bullet. That's the way I look at it. I dodged a bullet. And because of my, previous divorce, they wouldn't, even consider me for membership because of, all of that. So I decided that I was, at that point I was kind of lost. And I had seen that I decided to give paganism a try again. And I got into Druidry because I want to feel connected to the earth, and I've always been drawn to nature. I always felt more of a connection to a higher being when I was in the forest, taking a walk through, and so I decided I was gonna, learn about Druidry and stuff, and I got a whole bunch of Druid books, and I read about half of them, and there was something that wasn't right. It didn't sit right with me. I still didn't feel connected spiritually to that. And I decided to I was scrolling through YouTube and watching some of my, because I watched some of Frater Oz's videos, when I was first researching Thelema back in the day and stuff, and I had gotten and through him I got introduced through the Witch's Bible, and I had read that cover to cover, so I started watching his videos again and trying, hopefully, I understand the Thelema aspects of things, but I didn't, the book still didn't make any sense to me after watching all those videos. And I noticed that there was a recommendation on the list, and it was a creator by the name of Dot Darling. And I was like, I've never seen this creator before. And so I started watching her videos, and she explained things in a very simple way and easy to digest and very informative. And I watched her video where she talked about top 10 books for beginners and stuff, and this is what I really wanted. I wanted to have I wanted to be able to have books that I could just like with Marx, something easy I could digest and be able to progress on from there and further wrap my brain around, the concepts and stuff. And so I got some of the books that she had recommended. I got Fresh Fever from the Skies. I got Living Thelema by David Shoemaker. I got all of these beginner books and stuff. And it's kind of started making sense to me again. And, during the time when, you read the Feast of the Book of the Law and stuff, I'd read the Book of the Law again. And holy shit, this is starting to make a little sense. This is interesting, And so it progressed on from there. And I had been studying Thelema since I want to say about I've been studying Thelema since about May or April of last year. So I'm still very fresh off the Thelema train. And I didn't really profess myself as a Thelemite until about June or July, where I really felt like this is where I want to go. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I was struggling to find a habitual practice. I was doing Liber Resh. I was trying to do Liber Resh. I was doing LBRPs. I was trying to build that habitual, but I wasn't connecting to any of it. And I was so frustrated. I was setting alarms on my phone so I could do them at specific points during the day. I would Google, okay, when is morning? When is is, noon. Well, obviously, when, noon is, but, sunset, all of that, when the exact times are. And so I was trying to build that habit in my mind and in my practice. And right around that time, when I was struggling so hard to find a practice that called to me, I saw a thing on Instagram from Pineapple Abbey, Call of Babylon. And it was interesting that just the day before, I had received a thelemic rosary from a creator, an Etsy creator who also is on Instagram. I don't remember her handle, but I will definitely put it in the comment section below. But I got a rosary from her. FYI, the rosary broke. I had to fix it. Just gonna tell you now if you watch this. So anyways, so I started doing the call to Babylon, and I did it every single day for 77 days. I didn't miss one day, and I haven't missed a single day since. I've still been doing the call to Babylon. In fact, I've incorporated a morning prayer to Rahor Kuit. I've incorporated 30-minute reading sessions every day. And I have a habit. I have a habitual practice. The one thing that I did not have when I first started paganism or any of the other practices I took up, I didn't have a habitual practice. And now I do. And if there's one thing that you can walk away from this episode, or part 2 of this episode, it's that it took me all this time from point A to point B to get here. I went from being the child of a southern, raised in fundamentalist Christian circles, being a devout atheist / communist, to now being a Thelemite and being happy that I am a part of a practice in a community that feels fulfilling to me for once in my life. And I feel like I have a connection to deity more so in this practice than I did at any point in any of my other spiritual practices. So yeah, that's if you've been on here the whole time and enjoyed my ramble about my life history and the different things that I've been into, I appreciate it. If there's anyone else here watching that would like to ask me any questions in the comments, feel free. But yeah, that's where I'm at. As far as my politics, I've kind of I'd still consider myself far left, politically speaking. But I wouldn't say that. Well, yeah. The way I look at it is, if you're not growing as a person, there's something wrong. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I hope to get to know all of you better too. But yeah, I kind of moved away from the authoritarian left aspects of it, I'm more. I'd say I'm more close to like an anarchist now. I'm more into like mutualism and stuff like that. Syndicalism. If you, I also like Daniel D. Leon too. But I believe, but the way I look at it is that even though I consider consider myself far left, though my politics are still based heavily on my spiritual aspects. My politics come second to my spiritual beliefs, because the whole point. Anarcho-syndicalism piques your interest. I'll give you Daniel D. Leon is an interesting figure. You definitely want to check his stuff out. You don't necessarily have to read any of his work per se. Brief synopsis is a great start. Marxist Internet Archive is a good place to get it. Free information. There's a lot of sources on there for that. But anything by Peter Kropotkin, his book Mutual Aid is a good book that talks about mutualism. Emma Goldman. When it comes to female issues, there is no one that during that time period of the Victorian Edwardian era that had a better view on women's issues than Emma Goldman. I love Emma Goldman. So Peter Kropotkin, Emma Goldman, those are the only ones I can think of at the moment that are really, as far as Marxist female people. Rosa Luxemburg is another. Some of her stuff is a little dry, especially where she talks about economics and stuff. Very dry. But yeah, so I used spirituality to get away from politics, and I found that, I was still very much a political person. I still had, but instead of my politics informing my spirituality has helped inform my politics. And it's been tricky trying to translate into like real world current events. For me, trying to understand, okay, how does this fit into a thelemic context? How does this, how does will fit into this? And I use Crowley's writings, specifically, like his view, like, Liber Oz, for example, is a great complementary text to kind of understand where my politics should be in relation to my spiritual practice and my spiritual philosophy. So that's pretty much it. I'm glad that people could come and listen to me ramble on for almost 2 hours. I'm glad that I got to share my story a little bit. I was hoping to have another guest on, but I didn't have any takers, and so I thought I would share my experiences and my interests and stuff with all of you. And so I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. And I look forward to hosting the next episode of Live from the Abyss. I will post information on that at some point in the future. But anyways, you guys all have a great night. And 156.93. Peace out.